I have a confession. Not actually. I got sent Soul Dier early by the developers. That's really standard practice in the industry, I guess. Really, I'm just wanting to brag about it a little. You know, look at me, ma. I made it. Look at me, ma. An upcoming release for October 24th, 2025, Soul Dier Part 1 is a tactical RPG developed by Weonix and Gawehold, a two-person team from Hong Kong. I've talked about one of those before. Dream Tactics remains my only real reference point in this genre. TRPGs are one of those lost genres. The classics maybe have their cult followings, we get a AAA release maybe once a decade, and it's yet to be reproliferated, fucking hell, in indie spaces. I'm threatening to rehash the start of my other video, and that's just a waste of time for everyone. Dream Tactics was a fairly brutal game. I remember spending upwards of 5 hours retrying 20 to 40 minute combats. I enjoyed it, which I guess proves how much of a masochist I am. I can understand that that's not a good starting point for a lot of people. Luckily, Soul Dier's best selling point is its approachability. The difficulty curve is much gentler, allowing players to slowly grasp the fundamental concepts of the genre and then layer that with increasing levels of complexity. The narrative is a pretty slow burn, with an easy learning curve that keeps it light but doesn't shy away from the grimmier aspects of the world. The start of the game is an excellent example of what Daddy Sandy calls a tone promise. We have this shadowy void, the thoughts of somebody who seems to be dying, wishing to go on a big adventure. This is Curtin. When trying to ask for help, we're shown the callous violence of the Sinkers. Curtin is saved by Owl, who then swiftly exposits that the Sinkers are this mysterious sort of paramilitary operation, waging a senseless war. Owl is convinced that they're mindlessly evil bad dudes with no thoughts of their own. Curtin immediately pushes back against this and continues to do so throughout the story. It's setting the audience up to expect something a little serious and a little humorous. Tactical RPGs need some kind of war going on so that you can be tactical. That kind of setting doesn't exactly open the door to like hanging out and stuff. Showing these things in contrast, then following that with, "Hello, I'm evil and going to kill you." It's walking that delicate line between real shit and comedy. There's a war going on, or whatever, but people die in those. There's a war going on. That's some tricky shit, and it's what people expect from a JRPG. Now, I could waffle about genre for like 5 minutes, and I might if you're a bad girl, but pretending to have focus, JRPGs tend towards narrative conventions trope structure, having both mundane slice of life and grand battles against the forces of darkness. The driving factor behind these stories is always the party. We understand the world through our party members, the decisions are made by the party. What audiences ultimately want is the party. Soul Dier's story feels like a return to this in a way I haven't had for a while. It's really nice just sitting back and watching some cool people hang out, just be like friends and stuff. I was a pretty lonely kid. The plot setup is a serialized narrative with episodic chapters. So we have a big P plot with wider arcs. Curtin wants to get his memory back. Owl says there's a town and it's got a library that's got books that might help. So get to the library, but first we need to get out of this forest. While trying to get away from the Sinkers, they chance upon Coral. Escaping the forest leads to a ruined city, where we meet Block and go through Spanner's whole deal. This gets them the means to get to the city, but oh no, it's been overrun by the Sinkers, so figure out how to get into the library, and maybe solve a murder mystery while you're at it. Chapter 2 is part detective thriller. Weonix and Gawehold happily credit Ace Attorney as inspiration. I haven't actually played that series, but those games are mainly comedies. They're goofy and ridiculous. While Soul Dier's Haze is angry, drunk, and grieving, they're still able to have fun and be a little goofy because of that nuanced approach to tone. I'm gonna pile all my problems with the game at the end. Combat's fucking great. TRPGs have large battles with many combatants wherein move limitations, positioning, and optimizing damage are how players engage with that system. Again, Soul Dier's is very approachable. They're asking players to grasp core concepts of the genre and the game itself before steadily expanding on those ideas. Moving, positioning, what advantage looks like, you'll have time to figure that out while learning how cover in the AoE works. Then we can get to planning and manipulating movement. I would call this a medium hard difficulty. I struggled through every fight, but usually one retry was enough to scrape out a win. Some things, counting tiles, checking move stacks, focusing problem enemies, are just good practice. Those are transferable skills within the genre. Dream Tactics beat that into me. Players new to the genre will likely struggle a lot more, but it will be an enjoyable struggle. That's thanks to how they handle level design and progression. Soul Dier's strict linearity allows for greater control of this learning process. The genuine eagerness they have for explaining new things is very helpful. It takes a kind of platformer approach to the levels. Each level centers some kind of unique and specific mechanic, with the primary challenge of that level being that mechanic. The first 2 levels are tutorials, but level 3 has this windstorm going on. Every round it blows and changes direction. Anyone facing into it gets the blinded debuff. As a whole, this teaches a lot. The turn order is kindly laid out in full on the left side of the screen, including hazards. Facing direction is a pretty big deal in this game. Defense has directional modifiers, so moving to a spot that allows you to deal damage but not face the wind, or waiting and double checking what the bad direction is. There is no accuracy stat, so misses and dodges don't happen without buffs and debuffs like blinded. Little by little, asking the player to think about these different mechanics, tricking you into paying attention to the nuances and showing why these things are important. By trying to avoid getting sand in your eyes, you've also grasped fundamental concepts of the combat system that are immediately relevant and valuable, and it ties into progression fluently. Upgrades are a pick one of 3 addition that either modify skills to be more effective, or give stat boosts, or bring unique aspects of a build. Curtin's first skill, full auto shooting, can have either more range or have a chance at applying blind, because we now know just how valuable blind can be, making that choice is a choice. Both of these can be really good, and we know why. Through this, they're able to create and promote build diversity. Curtin is light infantry, Owl's the sniper, Coral's the medic. When you get to chapter 1, Block becomes your tank, and Spanner's the engineer. Getting to choose how you want Curtin to have survivability. If Owl is more black line glass clannant or sneaky cleanup, Coral can have really effective healing, but she'll be extremely vulnerable. Do you want Block to deal decent damage, or just tank as much as possible? Spanner's turrets can be quicker or stronger, or you can buff his other skills if turrets aren't your thing. That's just the pretense to the actual combats. Dealing with the puzzle that is a given level, making sure your positioning minimizes incoming damage while maximizing yours and managing energy, trying not to waste the limited stockpile of items you brought, and keeping from getting overrun. Combat has this excellent rhythm to it. You start being tactful, using cover and baiting out opponents, but they've always got some way of squeezing you. All the cover gets destroyed, Curtin bleeds to death like an idiot, you're running out of resources or reinforcements show up. Eventually the field clears out to the last 2 or 3 shouting at each other till one side dies. TRPGs are a unique genre in how stressful and tiring, rewarding and engaging they can be, but they're difficult to get into because of how few there are. Most people have never played one or only played a Fire Emblem game when they were 12. I enjoyed Dream Tactics, but it's not easy to recommend. That's where Soul Dier excels. It's a very enjoyable ride for new and experienced players alike. It's clever and chewable, with a nice story and some pretty landscapes. It's a return to the classics with modern adaptations. Yeah, fuck that. I just want to get rid of that one. It's just so vapid. I hate it. I am earnestly trying to get you to buy this game. I genuinely want Weonix and Gawehold to have a good launch and get paid, but obviously the game isn't perfect. It has 3 major issues it's important to keep in mind if you're thumbing your wallet. First are the deal breakers. This is part 1 of 2. It is half the planned game and story, with the other half coming eventually. Now, you are getting a complete product. I got about 23 hours of gameplay for the planned price they told me. That's completely fair. Most games at this price point are about that length. And performance issues. I have a pretty low-end computer, and I have to record my gameplay, and I usually have Chrome running. My laptop struggles to run most things. I just drop the settings and move on. Either way, I was struggling to maintain 30 FPS even when I lowered the resolution. There are some people who can't even run this game on their setup. Both of these get in the way of the best aspects of indie games. We prefer indie titles because they're complete products at a reasonable price that are lightweight and low demand. Whether or not these bother you specifically is up to you. If you have a nice PC and are okay with cliffhangers, then neither of these is the problem. That leads to issue the second, which are the critiques I would give were I doing a full video. I really like the way they handle progression, but why not mention the best bits? The reward screen only shows items and charms. Even if I want those, the most exciting part is skills, upgrades, party members. None of that is even alluded to. It's weird to me the excitement around no grinding progression, when first of all, that's becoming more of an industry standard, especially in indie spaces. Also, the game's fundamental structure doesn't allow for that possibility in any way. Also, the strict linearity means the game basically has no replayability. Going back to a level also takes away progression. What is available in your toolkit is specific to each one. There's no way to do things differently and no reason to revisit old content. When you have a system that is this fucking good, players just want an excuse to play it more. TTYD is not meant to be combat focused, but everyone loves the Pit of 100 Trials, which is literally 100 combats in the same palette swapped rooms and nothing else, and is the best shit, because that system is that good. In an interview with 80 Level and Amber Rutherford, Gawehold kinda argues against this sort of stuff, saying that they want to make handcrafted challenges, they don't care for that kind of copy pasting. That's the right mentality, but some form of loosely structured post-game challenge would be sick. Rad, even. Something that can be thrown together in a week but give another 10 hours of optional playtime is the kind of thing I actually want. I am very confused as to why Chapter 1 is like that. Well, that's kinda mean. I have problems with Chapter 1 that Chapter 2 doesn't have at all, and that's what confuses me. With this kind of plot structure, you're trying to advance the big P plot incrementally while navigating little p plots. Chapter 2 has the murder mystery and getting to the library. We have little Q questions about the mystery, Hayes, Philo, and big Q about the sinkers, the library. Everything it takes to get into the library is little p and answering little Q. Then getting in answers some big Q questions and asks a new one. Our next advancement of the big P plot also solves the mystery and leads to our cliffhanger ending. Chapter 1 has way lower stakes and pays off in the middle, then keeps going for a while. Spanner is just looking for a guy. Curtin and co are trying to get a car running. You get the car running, we advance our big P plot, but then they decide to stick around and help out. This makes sense from a character perspective, and it's character driven. It would be perfectly fine, but as audience I'm left to wonder why the hell we're doing this. I'm disengaged because we've already dealt with the big P and the Q, yet those are just cast aside for little p and little q. The setting does not help. Chapter 1 takes place in a city built by the Sinkers on top of another city that supposedly was super technologically advanced, but sunk into the ground when it was attacked. All we see of this city is factories, facilities, parking garages, and alleyways, none of which are a city in the way the other city is, where we see docks, houses, public squares. Calling Chapter 1 a city stretches credulity a little too much. The game has a slower pacing, it's one of the strongest aspects and is part of what makes it so approachable. They're willing to do the diligent work of steadily building towards the big moments that a lot of things just skip over to get to the fun parts. When we have part 2, it will be the best part of the game's design. Right now, it's frustrating as shit. You've got 30 levels of investment getting to this point of mechanical complexity and rising action for the story. As soon as it's at its absolute best, the game ends. It's over and there's nothing you can do about it. For that, I'll probably return to this game when part 2 is out. Only having part 1 doesn't make me feel like I can really address it fully. Right now, I think the ending to Chapter 2 is really strong. It has me eager to come back and play Chapter 3, but if Chapter 4 fails to resolve or pay off or reveals some bad habits, I might have very different opinions. Before I get carried away, major issue the third, like 5 rewrites, and I still didn't mention how good the music is. The translation. It's a problem, I guess, but also not really, but definitely is. Once I tell you this game was made by non-native English speakers who translated it themselves, the translation is not a problem. It's very easy to be understanding of that. We're exposed to a lot of translated works already. It doesn't ever get in the way of gameplay, only cutscenes. Even then, some people might not even notice it was translated. I also have access to 2 different versions of the translation. The one I got originally was Weonix and Gawehold's, then they updated the game with a version that was proofread by an English speaker. This is a lot for whatever brand of neurodivergent I am. Even the original translation was fine. Translations are always a filter, always kind of off in the native language. It's a barrier. Getting through that at all is really fucking impressive. But something always gets stuck or lost or forgotten. What gets lost is the question. For Soul Dier, it's a lot of really minor things that create an overall clunkiness. Dialogue has this awkward verbosity to it, some things are worded a little odd, there's grammar mistakes. That's why I think being informed invalidates this problem. It's been very well translated by somebody who is presumably fluent in English but themselves not involved in English speaking culture. They got 80% of the way there, but the last 20% is all the little things that you can't really know unless you know. Grammar is not like actually a real problem. It took me 13 hours to notice they forgot the S in points. Seriously, this isn't fucking English class. I'm not busting out my red pen pretending to care about me and John versus John and I. No, nobody cares. I think a few skill and item names could be a little punchier. Full auto shooting never really rolls off the tongue, it's kind of clunky and awkward. Because English speakers generally avoid using verbs that end with the ing suffix to describe nouns. Except when we do, of course, like bowling bomb, because bowling bomb is technically also a noun and we're used to hearing it in that context. Full auto fire means literally the exact same thing, but sounds goodlier. No more ing plus alliteration. That is such a minor detail. In fact, the proofread really only changed minor details. The major details are fine, but we're talking about individual words and individual sentences. It's more like fretting over the final touches rather than making revisions. That missing 20% does get in the way of characterization. Owl is a more formal speaker, Coral is more casual. Owl should be verbose, while Coral should be succinct. This dichotomy falls apart when everybody is weirdly verbose. Owl is the tactician of the group, he is supposed to be some kind of thinky man. He insists on using honorifics, which stands out a lot in English. He uses the word hence. He uses it correctly, but not a single English dialect uses hence. Henceforth, it makes me wonder if he's supposed to be an old-timey scholar type. Even now, I'm not 100% sure on what they're going for. Coral being more sarcastic, more laid back, her wit doesn't make it onto the page. I know I'm kind of going on, and this will matter to no one. The start of chapter 1, when we meet Spanner, he drops a spanner, and the camera zooms in on it. I'm pretty sure this is the only time it ever punches into anything. Then it gets an entire line of dialogue. We're being told this is very important, but the spanner is never mentioned again. We already know he's a mechanic. We don't need this, and it's not important. Is this a dick joke? It'll be pretty interesting to see how better reviewers discuss the translation. I don't think it really matters, but it's definitely the kind of thing people grade against. It makes it harder to settle in, but you'll still get comfy. I found myself kind of skimming the clunky stuff, basically editing dialogue on the fly, so it read better so I could get to the good parts. I would like to see them finish that last 20% and have the best version possible of the game available. The concern isn't informed audiences thumbing their nose at it, it's random people browsing Steam who see some awkward wording and move on, or an hour and a half in not really clicking with it and returning the game. So, well, buy Soul Dier, as long as you have a comfortable amount of disposable income and want to play a tactical RPG. It's pretty good, it's probably going to be great. While you're at it, go to my Patreon and Ko-fi. I do really want these two to make money so that they can make part 2. I want part 2, and I want it for free.